Mike Vrabel and the New England Patriots are assembling a crew in Foxborough, but will all these experienced coaches lead to a more rapid return to respectability? Stick around. You're about to be locked in to the Locked On Patriots podcast.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all of you Foxborough faithful. Thank you once again for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. I'm your host, Mike Debate. I cover your New England Patriots for Patriots Country, so reach out to me. Let me know what's on your mind on X at MDABATENFL. And while you're out there showing some love to Locked On Patriots social media style, please follow our account there as well at LO_Patriots. You can also find me where the skies are blue over on Blue Sky at MDABATENFL.bsky.social. And of course, folks, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with the FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app and head to FanDuel.com to get started. Pats fans, as we said, Super Bowl 59 is set. The Philadelphia Eagles are set to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. But here in Foxborough, the most important thing that is being set is Mike Vrabel's coaching staff. And while the principals like offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels, defensive coordinator Terrell Williams, special teams coordinator Jeremy Springer have been set for a little over a week now, Mike Vrabel continues to add interesting, experienced names to his coaching staff. What does it mean for the Pats? And will it mean a quicker return to respectability? Here today to lend his wisdom, counsel, and insight is a good friend of the program. You know his great work from Patriots Football Now. He is my good friend and one of the best Pats guys in the business. Dan Kelley joins me today. Dan, thank you for joining me and welcome back to Locked On Patriots.
Thanks so much for having me, Mike. It's always a pleasure to be on the show.
Absolutely, my friend. And I know you caught the games yesterday. I know you got some insight that you'd like to share when it comes to now Super Bowl 59 being set between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to get to that in just a moment. I also know that you're a player personnel guy, and in my opinion, a player personnel guy extraordinaire, especially when it comes to scouting potential free agents and the draft. Folks, we're going to talk about that a little bit because this New England Patriots coaching staff is really shaping up to be very interesting, Dan. A lot of experience on this staff under Mike Vrabel, and a lot of people are wondering if this experience level within this coaching staff can help lead the Patriots back to respectability quicker. But first, Dan, let's just talk about some of the new faces we're going to see in Foxborough this year. Obviously, Mike Vrabel is the head guy. Not exactly a new face, but when it comes to being the head coach, he will be the Patriots' third coach in as many seasons. Just doesn't seem like you're talking about the Patriots when you use a statement like that, but that's exactly where they are. Josh McDaniels, definitely not a new face. He's been around the block here in Foxborough quite often, coming back as your offensive coordinator. Terrell Williams is the new guy on the block in the coordinator level of this coaching staff. And, of course, Jeremy Springer now his second year as special teams coordinator. But Mike Vrabel has been assembling an interesting crew. For lack of a better term. There have been a lot of guys that have been reported to be coming in that have Patriots fans excited, and for good reason. One of the first of the big names is Mike Vrabel's right-hand man, for lack of a better term, but I'll say Mike Vrabel's consigliere is coming in, and that's John Stretch Stryker. A lot of people are looking at him as playing like an Ernie Adams type role. Officially, he will be New England's vice president of football operations and strategy. I've talked to a few people close to this organization. They assure me this is going to be an equally valuable role both on the field and in the front offices. But the fun wasn't done there because the coaching staff continues to be compiled. Former New York Jets running backs coach Tony Doze is going to be coaching the Patriots runners in 2025. A couple of up-and-comers on the coaching circuit. Quarterbacks coach Ashton Grant. I know a lot of people are excited about this hire. Offensive assistant Riley Larkin, bringing some youth, some vibrance to this offensive coaching staff. And then on Monday morning, we got news that Doug Marrone would be hired in an offensive advisory role. A lot of us are assuming that's going to be an offensive line coaching position, given his experience, given his coaching history. Thomas Brown going to be in the fold as the tight ends coach, the pass game coordinator. I'm not done yet, Dan. On the defensive side of the ball, Patriots hiring Florida A&M's defensive coordinator and their linebackers coach, Milton Patterson. He's going to play a big role on the coaching staff of Terrell Williams. So those are just a few of the names that the Patriots have brought in here to try to add some experience, some depth to this coaching staff that the team didn't have in 2024. When you look at these coaching hires, first of all, what's been your assessment of the coaches that Vrabel have brought in so far? Who among those names that I've mentioned, or maybe among names I haven't mentioned yet, stand out to you as potential all-star hires this offseason?
Well, I think you got to start with the coordinators. So far, I guess to start with the one holdover from the 2024 staff, Jeremy Springer retaining his special teams coordinator position, I love. I think that was an excellent keep. I had written an article targeting some assistants that I would really like to see stick around. He was tops on the list. Cornerbacks coach Mike Pellegrino, who we don't know about at this point, was another name listed. And Bob Bignell, who we have heard is departing, was the third name on that list that I thought deserved a shot to stay. Bob Bignell, I thought, did a great job with the tight ends, also experience with wide receivers also. So I thought there'd be a spot for him somewhere. However, when you're bringing in a new staff, I think one aspect of staff building that really got overlooked in 2024, and you could say this across the roster building in a lot of ways, the way they put together their offensive line, it's not a collection of individuals. It's really trying to put together one cohesive unit. And the fact that these guys all had worked with each other or have experience, they know each other. This really feels like Vrabel's chosen staff, or Josh McDaniels' chosen staff, or Terrell Williams' chosen staff, as opposed to last year. And, not any fault of his own necessarily, Gerard Mayo didn't have the network of people at his disposal. Right. He had worked with one program his entire career, and it was a program that, to a large degree, ownership was looking to move on from. So, you saw Brian Belichick and Pellegrino stick around. Hightower brought back, but as a rookie. Matthew Slater brought in as a rookie coach. So you didn't have this level of experience that you're seeing with Vrabel, where he can pull out his Rolodex and bring in guys not only with coordinator experiences to take positional jobs, but head coaching experience. Right. I mean, Doug Marrone, I'm sure some have forgotten, he was the Buffalo Bills head coach, and an excellent one. He actually really bumbled that opportunity up there. I'm very familiar with him, as we both went to Syracuse, and he was the Syracuse head coach before taking the Bills job. And the only reason that, in my estimation, not confirmed, but in my estimation, that he did not stick with the Bills is because he believed the New York Jets job at the time was coming open and coming to him, which he viewed as a more desirable job. History has proven that the Bills were a more desirable place, and he didn't land that job anyway. He ended up going down, becoming a coordinator, worked with the Jaguars, took over as their head coach after an interim basis. Worked on Alabama's staff, worked with BC last year with Bill O'Brien. And that's really where the connection with Vrabel stems from, I believe, because Vrabel and Josh McDaniels both very close to BC coach Bill O'Brien. Yeah, so he came highly recommended. So you're getting a former NFL head coach that's, in theory, going to be an offensive line coach for you, a position he's had for many years as part of when he was with the Saints before going to Syracuse, was an offensive line coach and run game coordinator. So he'll have more leverage, more responsibility than your average offensive line coach,
Right.
certainly than the guys that have been brought in the post Scarnecchia years in New England. So that's a huge, significant upgrade. And then Thomas Brown, another guy, he was interim head coach with the Bears last year. He was a candidate for several offensive coordinator jobs this year. So to land him as a positional coach and pass game coordinator is a huge get. And these are guys, too, that possibly you're in jeopardy of losing them to coordinator jobs if things go well. But as I've said in the past, you're only losing guys if your team is successful. Right. So it's a good sign if Thomas Brown moves on and becomes an offensive coordinator. It means things are going well in New England. And you're not losing your offensive coordinator in that scenario. You're losing a tight ends coach who, in all due respect, the tight ends coach is a little easier to replace. So I love the experience that's coming in here. I love the diversity of personalities because Mike Vrabel is a complex individual. He's not only the gruff guy like Belichick. He's not only a jokester like Mayo. He really is a combination of those. And I think his staff is really showing all of those degrees. And that's huge for the players because sometimes you need a pat on the back and sometimes you need to get chewed out. And they have guys on the staff that can do all of the above. So really love the way things are coming together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned the head coaching experience that right now is on the bench under Mike Vrabel. You mentioned Doug Marrone. Going to be very interesting to see if Mike Vrabel pulls on some of his wisdom and counsel when it comes to being a head coach in this league. Thomas Brown has some interim experience being a head coach. Obviously, we know Josh McDaniels has an extensive history being a head coach in New England. Maybe not one that people want to talk about at parties, Dan, but I still think that there is a level of respect there. He knows the ins and outs of how this has to go. With Terrence Williams, you're hearing that his style is going to be much more four-man front heavy, so we might see a little bit more of that than we've seen in Foxborough in years past. If they do institute these types of changes, could it mean a quicker return to respectability than some people are believing is going to be possible here in New England?
I think that the personnel is really going to dictate a lot of that. Everybody has great plans, but you need the players to put it on the field. And one thing that really got echoed throughout the Patriots locker room last year, and I think the reason that maybe some of the players were a little more loyal to Gerard Mayo than maybe the fans were is because the players even viewed it as a lack of talent on the roster. And there's only so much you can do in this league when you just don't have talent at the positions. So the Patriots, I think, are in a really nice position with Drake May at quarterback because there's your franchise player, your keystone quarterback, which really sets the table for everything. And he's capable of allowing you to do so much. Even you look at Mac Jones, who I still think had a very underrated rookie season. I think his last 2 years here really dampened the impression that people had of his overall performance, especially as a rookie. But he was limited in what he could do. He didn't have the arm strength to pull off certain plays. He didn't really have the mobility in the pocket to tuck it and run in the same way. Even if his 40 might have been comparable, you can tell the difference by watching games. Absolutely. And that's why I study so much game film of these guys. I know the combine is eye-catching for fans, and you can look at numbers, but there really is no duplicate to watching the way guys play the game. And Drake May plays fast when he runs. He throws the ball hard, and it really opens up the offense to a lot of possibilities. But he needs some playmakers. Shoring up the offensive line is more important than anything Josh McDaniels will do. If they can protect their quarterback, they have the ability to run a successful and effective offense in any number of ways. And I think they have enough guys on the staff and enough quality ideas that they'll do what works. And Mike Vrabel's been criticized by some for being a little too old school, because when he was in Tennessee, they really had a run heavy offense and they played, 1930s style where you hand off 35 times a game.
Yeah.
But he also had a prime Derrick Henry. And
exactly.
if I had prime Derrick Henry, I'd give it to him 30 times a game also. So there's nothing wrong with doing whatever gives your team the best chance to win. And Bill Belichick's a great example of that. 2004, Bill Belichick, the offensive MVP on that team is Corey Dillon.
Mm-hmm.
But 3 years later, Corey Dillon's not on the team and Randy Moss is on the team. Randy Moss sets the single season touchdown record for wide receivers. So you adapt to your personnel. And I think the veteran leadership on this team, on the coaching staff, is really going to enable them to do that, is to figure out what works best for this team and make that the game plan. So I'm not set on, and I've seen, the same as you. I've seen a million ideas about what offense Josh McDaniels will run.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the end of the day, he'll run whatever the best offense for the personnel is. And we don't know what the personnel is yet. I think there's only a handful of starting jobs that are really etched in stone at this point. So offensive line primary for me. And then on defense, more so than sets, I know Terrell Williams is a big D-line guy, and playing violent and aggressive are two words that have popped up, and that's really going to benefit if Christian Barmore is healthy. Christian Barmore is an ideal guy for him. I mean, he can really go next level. Keon White, we could see go from being a productive player to being a potential all-pro player under his watch if he gets let loose. So I would love to see less of a reliance on linebackers making all the plays, having these run-stopping defensive tackles, and just have more playmakers on the field. So I'm excited to see them let loose a little bit.
Yeah, excellent points. And both on the offensive side of the ball, folks, and on the defensive side of the ball, Patriots clearly have some work to do to build this team back to respectability. And that leads me quite nicely into what we're going to discuss in just a moment, Dan, because a lot of people are wondering, what does this mean for the Patriots players that are coming in? Players that are not on this roster right now, but will be wearing a Patriots uniform come training camp and come preseason. Does the Patriots' current coaching staff change their approach to the draft or free agency? I'm going to pick the brain of Dan Kelley in just a moment when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Listen up, Locked On listeners. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. And LinkedIn's new feature called Post Your Job can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a little pro tip for you. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high-quality hires. So don't delay, do it today. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Patriots fans, thank you once again for joining me here today on Locked On Patriots, and joining us here today to lend his wisdom, his counsel, and his reason when it comes to the Patriots' potential return to respectability is my good friend Dan Kelley, who you know his great work from Patriots Football Now and numerous other sites for which he's provided Patriots coverage for a number of years. Folks, one of the best in the business, personally and professionally, and I'm honored to have him here today. Dan, we talked in the previous segment about the Patriots' new look coaching staff under Mike Vrabel. A lot of new names coming in, a lot more experience at given positions. What does it mean for the type of players that they're going to be bringing in? What type of roster are they going to be fielding in order to play to these coaches' strengths? You kind of touched upon this in the previous segment by saying that you believe that these coaches are smart enough to adapt to the types of players that they have on the field. In other words, adapt to your personnel. So I'm going to put you on the hot seat, my friend. Patriots have over $130 million in salary cap space. They have a large amount of draft capital, including the number 4 overall pick. When you look at the way the Patriots typically build a roster, and you look at the way that Mike Vrabel is assembling his coaching staff, do you believe that these two sides are going to meet in some sort of agreement when it comes to the types of players that are going to be brought in? Or could this be a whole new experience and a whole new world for New England as they look to build this roster into 2025? Is this coaching staff going to affect the types of players they're going to be bringing in?
It's an interesting question because a year ago, Elliot Wolf was really running the show. And I'm not sure that any of us, and I don't mean this as an insult, I'm not sure any of us a year later can put our finger on what type of player Elliot Wolf was trying to bring in. And
that's fair.
That is something that is a little discouraging to me as someone that follows the team as closely as I do. One thing that I certainly got better at over the years, and, a huge sample size will do that for you, is by the end of the Bill Belichick regime, for better or worse, I could really identify certain players that I knew would be high on his list. They had certain traits, they had certain things on their resume, be it a captaincy or whatever it may be. But you could really look at certain traits and say, that's a guy that Belichick's going to be interested in. So I might not have nailed every pick that I thought the Patriots were going to make, but I will say it became a lot easier. With last year's draft, I thought there was not a lot of cohesiveness to how those picks were being made. I take Drake May off the board because to me that was a no-brainer. He was the number 1 player overall on my board. He was available at number 3. We needed a franchise quarterback. Even if you had him behind Williams and Daniels, undoubtedly he was number 3 on almost every board. So take him out of the equation. Jalen Polk, I'm not sure what made him so attractive to New England. Caden Wallace, I'm not sure what made him so attractive to New England. Layden Robinson, Marcellus Dial, Joe Milton, actually, even though he was a backup quarterback, is maybe the most understandable pick to me. I can say the same about Jaheim Bell because tight end was a need, and I thought that was excellent value in the 7th round. Javon Baker was actually the highest ranked player available on my board when the Patriots picked. He was not my live pick, my personal preference for a live pick, because they were so thin at edge, and that was before trading Judon, before trading Uche, that I thought a guy like Austin Booker that ended up going to the Chicago Bears would have been a better fit. Bring in a young 21-year-old edge rusher that you can develop. Made more sense to me than bringing in another wide receiver with potential personality conflicts, off-field issues, that wasn't a can't-miss star. And if you're trying to rebuild your program, you might be able to tolerate a guy like that if he's a can't-miss. I'm not sure that Javon Baker's a can't-miss, and Patriots are in a position to gamble on those types of players at the moment. That's just my personal perspective. And in free agency, the number 1 preference was clearly retaining their own guys, is identifying who in their locker room were the guys they wanted to stick around, either through free agency or handing out extensions, which they did to multiple guys, I think 7 in total. I'm not sure anyone lived up to their extension aside from perhaps Brendan Schooler. It was a really disappointing year on that front between Duggar, Peppers, Tavai, Onwenu. Obviously, Barmore, you can't hold that against.
There's
a unique situation. Godchow, sort of a mixed bag. So, disappointing year as far as extensions go. And now the narrative is that players don't want to play in New England. It's understandable. The taxes are high. The team is bad. The weather's not great. It almost makes you question why we live here sometimes. But that being said, I think back to the Boston Red Sox and their championship drought back, extending past 80 years, back to the turn of the century. Pedro Martinez didn't want to play for the Boston Red Sox, but the Red Sox traded for him. They brought him here, and he loved it. And then he wanted to stay here. So we overpaid Manny Ramirez, which worked out great, overpaid to get him to come here. And then he obviously was great here. And then you land on a couple of other guys along the way. So one thing for the Patriots to be a desirable location, once again, the coaching staff certainly helps with that. But for a couple of free agents, we are going to need to overpay them. And I don't mean the Rams offer Alaric Jackson $13 million, so the Patriots offer $14 million. I mean, they offer 13, so we offer 18. There's going to need to be maybe one or two overpays in that neighborhood. The other thing that they can do is, because now you have coaches, and if you saw some of the announcements for Patriots coaches landing jobs, there were very good NFL players across the league that had played for those guys, singing their praises and congratulating them on social media. So do those guys potentially want to rejoin them in New England? Could New England trade for a Jeffrey Simmons or a Harold Landry from the Titans? Could they reunite Thomas Brown with a DJ Moore from the Chicago Bears? And maybe you're giving up a little more in a trade. You're giving up a third-round pick for DJ Moore. But the alternative to that is maybe giving T. Higgins $40 million if you're looking to land that number one receiver. So from my perspective, and Vrabel was asked what type of players he wants, and he said good ones, which, that's always the obvious answer. But to me, the Patriots really should consider 2 or 3 trades. Elliott Wolf has yet to trade for an NFL player. In his first year on the job, he did not make a single trade that brought New England an NFL player. And I would like to see 2 or 3 trades to bring in guys like a Simmons or a Landry or a Moore, who are difference makers, who are already bought into the coaching staff and already can sing their praises to the other guys on the team. Moore was not the happiest camper in Chicago, but he loved Brown. And he said he brings juice to the locker room and to the field every time he's around. That's a great guy to have around, and that's a great guy to really relay that message to the younger group. So I think it's really important that they look at every angle. They're going to want to obviously nail the draft. Big swing and a miss last year, from my estimation. They need to nail the draft this year. They need to spend wisely in free agency. And again, I think that means overpaying for a player or two. But then the third aspect of it that has not been tapped into is making a couple of trades, passing up a couple of those draft picks in order to land some proven veterans who can help build the overall camaraderie of the team and really form a new foundation for what the team is going to be moving forward.
Excellent insight, Dan, and I always appreciate that. And ultimately, it's going to lead us to, I think, our final point today. Kansas City is all set to take what they believe to be their rightful place atop the AFC and maybe atop the NFL as the most successful franchise in NFL history. If they do pull off this three-peat, what does it do, if anything at all, to the Patriots' legacy? I think you know where Dan and I are going to go with this, but I'm going to let my good friend answer that question in just a moment when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast wraps up right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On listeners, Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with the FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, well, that's the icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Patriots fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots. It is the day after Championship Sunday in the NFL, and my good friend Dan Kelley joins me here today. We've been talking all things New England Patriots, Mike Vrabel's coaching staff, what the Patriots need to do to get back to respectability. But Championship Sunday seems to have lost its luster here in New England, Dan, if we're being very honest. This used to be the Patriots' time of year. A couple of years ago, I wrote an article for SI, and I said, winter is coming, and so are the Patriots. And I was very fortunate enough to be able to use the art of Game of Thrones and put Bill Belichick holding a sword and Tom Brady kind of as the Jon Snow to lead this New England Patriots team into the winter where they were dominant for so many years. Winter has become once again very cold and very damp here in New England. It's not an exciting feeling anymore. And the more success that a team like the Kansas City Chiefs has only, I think, exacerbates the New England Patriots fans' desire to return to respectability. The Pats are still king of the mountain when it comes to most championships, the Super Bowl era of the NFL, tied with the Pittsburgh Steelers for 6. But this Chiefs team continues to move forward at a very dizzying pace, and they have a chance to do something in Super Bowl 59 that not even the Patriots could pull off, and that is a three-peat. The Philadelphia Eagles stand in their way. They pulled off a 55-23 win over the Washington Commanders on Sunday to win the NFC crown. They look like they're clicking on all cylinders, but when you look at the two games that were played on Sunday, first of all, your general impressions of the teams that are advancing and who may have a little bit of an edge right now when it comes to Super Bowl 59, but most importantly, when you compare it to the success that the New England Patriots have had, do you see any similarities or any potential differences, and what do you think it does to the Patriots' legacy?
Couple of things. I think it's important for Patriots fans to realize that, number one, things were really great around here for a really long time. And I think that got taken for granted by a large portion of the fan base. And I remember getting a little ridiculed online one year. Patriots lost in the AFC Championship. And I said, Final Four of the NFL is pretty impressive considering everything they dealt with this season. And people hated it. People hated it because you're in the AFC Championship. And at that point, you don't feel good about being in the AFC Championship. You want to win this. You're thinking Super Bowl. So, and then once you're in the Super Bowl, you're thinking of winning the Super Bowl. It's not like back when the Patriots went to Super Bowl 20 and they could proudly display their Super Bowl, their 1985 AFC Championship rings, knowing that getting to the Super Bowl was a great accomplishment. The Bears were a far superior team. It was great that they got there, and that was a major accomplishment. The second, in 96 even felt that way to some degree, even though I still think they had a good chance to beat the Packers that year. But ever since they broke the seal and they won that first Super Bowl, that eliminated it for the rest of time. At no point, at least in our lifetimes, will Patriots fans feel good about anything less than a championship. And it's just worth taking a step back and noting that since our last Super Bowl, win in New England, the only three franchises that have won a Super Bowl are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Los Angeles Rams, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Only three. So there are 28 NFL franchises with a longer Super Bowl drought than the New England Patriots.
Right.
And I just want to reiterate that because I think it is forgotten by quite a few around here. The poor Lions have never been to a Super Bowl. I picked them preseason and pre-playoffs to make the Super Bowl this year.
Yep.
They fell short. They've lost both coordinators. They've already started losing assistants, and their window might already be closed. So things happen that quickly in the NFL, where a team went from a potential favorite to take home their first title to an afterthought and maybe an also-ran. People are talking about the Bills window being closed after that loss yesterday. I don't think that's the case. I think as long as you have a Josh Allen, a Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow, I don't think your window is closed. As far as the Chiefs, I think the number one comparison with those Patriots teams is the sense of it being inevitable that they would figure out a way to win.
Yeah.
And it feels that way watching the Chiefs now, where no lead is safe. Nobody's ever feeling comfortable playing them. And, you know, one of my buddies sent me a text yesterday saying, "No, I took the Bills to win outright. What do you think?" And I said, I would never bet against Patrick Mahomes. You know, if you want to give me some points, maybe, because you don't get any bonus points for winning pretty, but, you know, you just don't bet against Mahomes, just like for 20 years, you don't bet against Tom Brady. And that goes beyond. It goes to the Chiefs franchise, the Patriots franchise. People are assuming that the trajectory of the Chiefs will continue at this rate. If it does, I'll be blown away. Tip of the cap to them for an impressive job. But I think we should, you know, compare those things when we get there. Right now, they still are at the same level as those 90s Cowboys teams, where they've won 3 championships in 4 years. If they three-peat, that takes them to a different class because no one's done that in the Super Bowl era. The Packers have done it twice pre-Super Bowl. But for the Super Bowl era, nobody's done that. And 100 years from now, even if some team goes on to win 8 championships in 10 years, the excellence of the New England Patriots over that 20-year span in terms of longevity, consistent excellence, and having arguably the greatest coach and greatest quarterback together for that long, it's always going to be part of NFL history, and the Patriots should feel very secure in that. And, you know, nothing to be ashamed of. Like I say, tip your hat to the Chiefs for all they've done. They're not quite knocking on Tom Brady's door quite yet.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad that you said that, and I'm glad that you tied that into Brady as well, because a lot of what we're hearing in the national narrative is Patrick Mahomes is leading his team to another Super Bowl. Yep, that's it. We put him in the GOAT category. Now it's time to really seriously consider him, especially if he pulls off the three-peat. I think he becomes deeper into the conversation at that point, Dan, but I don't think he tops that conversation yet. Tom Brady has 35 postseason wins. Patrick Mahomes has 17. He has the potential to get 18 in 2 weeks. You're still looking at a lot of football that needs to be played. When it comes to the dynasty of the Chiefs as opposed to the dynasty of the Patriots, you look at the 6 that the Patriots won in the compact time that they did it in, and it becomes so much more magnified in terms of being able to reinvent yourself on the fly. The Patriots never rebuilt in that era. They only retooled. They reinvented themselves. They changed their image a little bit, but the Patriots were in contention for nearly 2 decades every single season without fail. That's amazing. That is a feat that if you're a Patriots fan, you should always hang your hat on that. Anyone looking at what the Chiefs are doing and saying it tarnishes or cheapens the Patriots' legacy or lessens the accomplishments that they've had, I don't think they're giving the Patriots a fair shake there at all. This is a franchise that has done what no other franchise, in my estimation, in professional sports has ever done. And maybe it will never be equaled again. in terms of the success that Robert Kraft had in crafting this team with Tom Brady as his quarterback and Bill Belichick as his head coach. Even if they do win this matchup in Super Bowl 59 in 2 weeks against the Eagles, I still don't see them at the same level that the Patriots are at just yet.
The same page, Mike. I would say that if anything, I will say I would feel comfortable about them making an argument, both Mahomes and the Chiefs making an argument for number two on all of those lists behind only Brady and the Patriots.
What can I say, Dan? Thank you so much for coming by today and bringing your wisdom, your counsel, your insight here to Locked On Patriots when it comes to Mike Vrabel, when it comes to potential Patriots free agent and draft targets, and most of all, when it comes to helping to cement the Pats' legacy for many years to come. Could not ask for more, my friend. Before I let you go, please let everyone know where they can reach out to you, interact with you, and what you got on the horizon from Dan Kelley in the future, bud.
Excellent. Well, first of all, always a pleasure being here. I could talk ball with you for hours, as we've done.
Likewise,
but recording it and sending it out to people, I hope they enjoy it as much as we do, because I know I could talk to you for hours. As far as I'm concerned, social media is the easiest place to find me at the moment. It's Dan Kelley, Kelley 66. And that's throughout social media, always updating, posting things. I have a couple of potential big announcements from a personal standpoint on the horizon, and not quite ready to let those launch yet, but hopefully you'll have me back on the program before too long.
Absolutely.
And I'll be able to share that with the listeners as well.
Definitely. And like I said, folks, whenever Dan puts pen to paper or voice to microphone, always make it appointment listening, appointment reading. You'll be entertained, you'll be informed, and you'll have wisdom and counsel beyond your years.